afternoon, Nighthawks. We have lesson number 3 from Module 4. We're going to identify, define, and draw perpendicular lines. All right, so this first figure should look familiar to you. It's a plus sign. I just added so that it looks like lines, right? Not line segments. They're all labeled. So we have label A, B, C is in the middle, D, and E. So I could label one of them as A to C, and my arrow is going backwards because the ray starts at C and goes through A. We can find lots of angles. I just gave you one example. Here's our first example, BCA. And of course, this makes a right angle. I have 4 of them. There's a right angle, a right angle, a right angle, and a right angle. I can even use our template from the first lesson or second lesson, and it fits right in there, and I can see both of my rays coming straight out when I fit my template into the vertex. So perpendicular lines are 2 lines that cross and make a 90-degree angle, or a right angle. And you will see a new label. So when we label perpendicular lines, we go from the starting point, the line that's coming down is CA, and the line that it crosses is BD. So I'm gonna go over here. So here's A to C, and it's crossing BD. Okay, all right. This is different from an intersecting line. Intersecting lines are lines that have at least one common point and create acute or obtuse angles. And remember from our last lesson, acute is less than, obtuse is greater than. So here's our example. Here's my perpendicular line going straight through, making that plus sign, and you can see it's on its side. Now I've taken a point, drawn a new line through it. This is our intersecting line. This angle right here is obtuse. It's greater than 90 degrees. And this angle is acute. It is less than 90 degrees. Okay, so we have perpendicular lines and intersecting lines. So in your practice book that you're going to be working with, you'll see some familiar figures. I see a clock. I see a brick, wall. We have a fence and a kite. And you're going to be finding on each of the objects at least one perpendicular line. And you just have to draw in and trace. So if I grab this piece of paper over here, here's a perpendicular line right there. And I'm just going to trace over it. It's making that, and I like to put this little box in the middle just to show, and I like to put my arrows, and I can even put points if that helps me just to see it better. So A, B, C. Yep, even in this football down here, you're gonna find a perpendicular line. Go back to our vocabulary. How do we know that these are perpendicular lines? You just have to write a quick sentence. Down here, you're gonna add to the lines. So they're giving you starting points, and then you're going to make perpendicular lines using your straight edge, your ruler. So you're gonna line up, make that 90-degree angle, use your template to make sure that it's 90 degrees for both grids, okay? When you turn the page, you're going to see some shapes that should look familiar to you, or figures that look familiar to you. And you are going to write in just like they gave you for the example. So A, line segment AB is perpendicular to BD. We could also say that line AB is perpendicular to AC. AB is perpendicular, there's our symbol, to AC with a line over the top. Because remember, these are line segments, they stop. They're not a line. When I walk over to D, does this have a perpendicular line? No. So I'm going to say no right angles. Because there are no right angles, and a right angle makes our perpendicular line. Okay, you're going to come over here. You're going to mark each right angle in the figure. Remember how I marked it. I just made a little square here, and there's one right angle. So that's a perpendicular line. And then it's always good to label. It's really hard to sometimes see when you're not labeling. Okay. All right. And then you're going to draw true, false, oops, too far. True, false. Shapes that have at least one right angle also have at least one pair of perpendicular lines. So you tell me your thinking. All right. And then homework will be the same. You guys are doing great. Keep up the great work. We'll have lesson 4 coming Monday.